Everyone, I'm here live with George Vondriska, Managing Editor of Woodworkers Guild of America, and our special guest today is Kayleen McCabe.
Hey everybody, it's good to see you here. Sorry we're running just a little bit late. And Kayleen is in Denver, Colorado. I'm in western Wisconsin. Hey Kayleen, go ahead and introduce yourself to the world here.
Oh, thanks, George. So I am a lover of woodworking and a contractor in Denver, Colorado. I hosted a show on the DIY Network. But right now, my big mission is to convince and show students of the next generation that working in the trades is probably the best thing ever. And, well, George, I didn't even realize you were going to have your guitars in the background. I hope we get to segue to that later.
Well, we're going to... A couple people asked about the guitars I've made, so I thought while we're kind of waiting for questions to come pouring in, we'll give the guitars a couple seconds. We'll talk about the guitars for a minute, and then regarding questions, Kayleen is open to your woodworking questions. I'm open to your woodworking questions. Kayleen and I will just kind of go back and forth. So let me give a short guitar spiel here while things are ramping up. Krista, I think you'll have to maybe roll in just a little bit. I want to say right away when I talk about building guitars that, to be honest, I started with kits in every case. I've never built one from scratch. This is the very first one I built, and the kit is from a company called US Guitar Kits, and I'm going to show you a kit in just a second. The reason this one doesn't have strings, it's getting cannibalized, is when I built this one, I took too much off the braces, first problem, and then also when I finished it, I wasn't happy with the finish, so I scraped it off, finished it again, scraped it off. Took me a couple tries to get the finish right. As a result of scraping, the soundboard got real thin, and so the soundboard over time kind of collapsed in on itself. So this guitar is the first one I ever made, but I'm getting rid of it because it doesn't play well anymore because it dove in so bad. This is a little bit different kit. This is a company, harpkits.com. This is a Renaissance guitar. Another kit that I worked on, and a little bit different sound, a little bassier, and obviously a much different look than a typical dreadnought style. And this is what I did, I don't know, a few years ago. Same kit company as the first one. Let me give you just a quick overview on the US Guitar Kits. This is a company that they actually do guitar making classes. You can look them up online and go take the class and work with the kit. But this will give you an idea of how it looks when it comes out of the box. The neck comes off. It's a bolt-on neck. The body has been put together but not sanded. There's no binding or purfling in it, so you do that. There's the bracing I was talking about on the back of the soundboard, where I got too overzealous on my first guitar. So you shape the bracing, you get that to go into the kerfing. That goes on, you put in the binding, you put on the purfling. So bottom line with the guitars, with these kits, I feel that there's enough done that I don't need a boatload of specialized guitar making tools to do this, but there's enough left. There's enough woodworking left that I do feel like I've voiced the instrument when I'm done. I really like making them. I've probably made 15 or 20 guitars at this point, working with these different kits. So
I sure hope that there's enough voice and time left for you to actually voice you actually playing one, because those are beautiful pieces that, well, the kits are amazing, but what you've turned them into is still a gorgeous piece of art. So I hope that after we geek out with questions like, oh, game on, George, I'm going to ask for a chord or two.
Maybe at the end. We'll see what happens.
Okay, so we have lots of questions coming in.
All right.
Dave J. asks, is he the only one who cannot find a square? Either the inside or outside is good with the small blade being tapered.
You want to jump on that, Kayleen? Where can a person find a highly accurate layout square?
Gosh, you know, it is something that I always am levels, squares. I always want to check to make sure, but not necessarily that they are even a sponsor of mine, but I've used a lot of Empire squares as far as layout tools, but it is something that you have to check them, just like a level where you can flip it over. are reversed to see if it's actually level. George, am I wrong? Can you do the same thing with the square, right? Like, you can flip it different directions. I don't know if I've cut, well, all right, sorry. I haven't come across many building squares that are out of square because they are a very precision tool, so I might be not answering the question correctly.
With a woodworking square, I think, so Kayleen is right, you got to test it, and it sounds like, Krista, was it Jim?
Dave?
Dave, sorry, boy, I blew that. So I think with Dave's question, he's already testing it, and he's finding out that it sounds like the two sides of the blade aren't parallel to each other, so one side might be square and the other not. And, you know, my advice would be you can't skimp on a layout tool. It's something that you got to spend some dough on. If you look at tools from Lee Valley, I'm not sure Lee Nielsen makes squares.
Yeah.
Is Bridge City Tool Works, I think they're still in business. And it's something that really high-end, high-quality square doesn't go in my apron. It is in a drawer. When I need it, I use it. When I'm done, I put it back. Because I don't want to take the risk of dropping it and knocking it out of square. But my advice, David, is don't skimp. Look at those companies and see what they offer.
Great. Okay, our next question comes from Michael. He bought a 10-foot Porter cable table saw. He found that
10-inch.
Well, okay.
Yeah, if it says foot, he's got to be.
Okay, 10-inch.
I want that. Yeah.
I found that the dado cut is only a 1/2 inch with a 6-inch dado. I guess my question is, to get what I thought was a normal 3/4 inch dado cut, I will have to go with the table saw that can handle the dado that can do it? Question mark.
So, Kayleen, you've probably seen this on some job site saws.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, George, please answer that, because I am going to realize that some of my answers are more job site related. So please answer this woodworking style, because I would like to hear your answer.
Well, so bench top or job site saws have really come a long way. Quality of cut, capabilities. But one of the limitations can be some of those saws won't even accept a dado. You can't even use a dado on them. Others do have that dimensional limitation where, yes, they'll take a dado, but only up to so big. And what happens is that as you're stacking the dado plates together, the bolt they go on is called the arbor of the saw, and you run out of arbor. You run out of threads. So that's the limitation on how wide a dado you can cut. So yeah, I think to answer the question, the saw does what the saw does. An alternative is you can do dados with a handheld router. That's another good approach to doing it. But if you want a table saw that will do it, yeah, you might be looking at having to do an upgrade to a better or a bigger saw.
Well, and really, if you want to do a good dado, please bring the lady flowers, some chisels, you know, a nice dinner. Sorry, lost on your fans. Other kind of dado. Sorry, George.
Oh.
Dale wants to know, he says he recently made an end grain cutting board from cherry and hard maple. He used mineral oil for the finish. His problem is that the mineral oil turned the maple a cherry color. He sanded it to 180 grit. What did Dale do wrong?
Well, I'm not surprised because Kayleen, finish turns wood dark, right? So
it does, but normally I'm not sure of a mineral oil, even thinking of like a tung oil or anything that would change a maple to a cherry-ish tint. It might be something to do with the fabric that you were using to stain, or that to me, George, that doesn't sound right. Normally it will darken it and really make that wood and lumber richer, but not to change it from a maple to a cherry. Maybe I'm missing part of the product that was being used, but that doesn't sound right.
Yeah, I think Kayleen might be onto something here with with what was used for application. Did a little color leach out of an orange or red rag? Because it's some woods, for instance, I've seen Purple Heart bleed into maple when finish, especially a finish that's got lacquer thinner as a solvent, like lacquer. When a finish like that gets applied, sometimes the color will leach from the Purple Heart into the maple, or from Paduke, even more so, into maple. I have never seen that happen with cherry and maple. So I think Kayleen is right that it's really not I don't think it's an effect of the mineral oil or the cherry. I've put mineral oil on 50 end grain cutting boards that have maple and cherry in them, and I've never seen that. So yeah, I think Kayleen's onto something there. Check the application device.
Oh yeah, I sometimes use a sock just to do my pre-sanding with, because I always lose one sock in the dryer. So if I lose the other one to stain, who cares? But I've learned that cheaper socks will bleed color. So no, George, that's perfect. Thanks, because I don't know. It's a good experiment to see if I can make half happen again.
Yeah.
Okay. Dan would like to know what kinds of saw blades are worth sharpening, like circular saw blades, band saw blades, etc., and where can you get this done?
The expensive ones. Yeah.
What'd you say, Kayleen? Expensive ones?
Yes, absolutely. There are definitely circular saw blades that are pricey, and you can sharpen. George, how is it for you? Because I have a local blade sharpener that I send mine to, but is there something national that I'm missing out on? Where maybe you have an answer for that.
Yeah, I think the answer is you got to look up sharpening spots in the yellow pages, or you got to Google it for your area, or go to a cabinet shop or a lumber yard or someplace where you can ask them. It's really nice before you use a sharpening service the first time. It's nice to get a testimonial from somebody who's already been there. And then regarding what gets sharpened, I do, like Kayleen, circ saw blades, table saw blades. I don't resharpen band saw blades. Router bits I will send out, but I'm more and more sharpening router bits myself on a diamond stone. What else? Laser chisels I do myself. Go ahead.
Can I also add to that? I agree. But also, if you Google search in your yellow pages, I love craftsmen who were able to still sharpen blades, but there are now machines with CNC technology that will sharpen for you. So if you're really going through a lot of blades, sort of looking at like the machinery that will do it, laser jet or water jet, kind of on machine. It's the technology has changed in sharpening blades, so I have to agree with you with every blade that you just mentioned to be sharpened later on.
Okay. Do we got another one?
Yes, we do. We have quite a few, actually. George would like to know, he wants to make a bigger table for his table saw. What is the best kind of wood he can use so it will not flex in the winter?
So, George, I'm going to assume you're meaning maybe an outfeed table for the table saw. So, Krista, if you roll or fan kind of to your left a little. This outfeed table's been on my table saw since forever. It's just BC plywood from a home center. There's nothing special about it. Now, flex in winter, maybe that means your shop is unheated. That wouldn't be an issue for this. Part of that is the way it's built. There's some structure below the top that's helping to hold everything together. This rolling table plan can be found on WWGOA, and it's oddly enough just called the rolling table or rolling shop table. Melamine is another good choice. It's a plastic coated particle board that looks like
great for table shops.
Melamine is very stable. Which way do you need it? This way? So plastic coated two faces, particle board in the center. That'll stay flat, and it's nice with the melamine because it's slippery.
I completely agree, George. Gosh, if I was in my shop, we'd nerd out with melamine together.
A finishing question. Before staining, he fills nail holes with a wood filler. He usually sees an area around the filled hole where the wood filler has filled the wood grain.
Yeah.
So it appears as a blotch about the size of his finger around the area of the filled hole. What do you suggest to prevent this issue?
Gosh, George, I could nerd out about that one, but I feel like I've answered a lot of questions.
I think I think you need more of the S word, sanding. It's so I think what you've got there, it's just like you're saying, the filler is immediately surrounding the nail hole. That's affecting your finish. So I think when I fill a nail hole, let's go back up a step. I put the putty in there, and then I strike it off with either a putty knife that's very sharp, or even with a wood chisel, and use the wood chisel kind of like a scraper, not real aggressive, but I pull that across the surface. So I'm trying to get all the wood dough excess off, and maybe scrape a little bit of the fiber. Once the wood dough is dry, I think you just need to do a little bit more sanding before your finish goes on to make sure that surrounding area is clean of excess.
And I'm going to add to that all glues and fillers are not made the same. Some are not meant to accept stain or any sort of finishes on top of that. There are some wood fillers that are meant to go on after stain. So just read the labels to what you're using for a filler, because George is totally right. Normally, I'm going to say 99% of the time you just didn't sand it back far enough to get rid of that product.
All right, so for all of you who have just joined us, I'm here live with George Vondriska, the managing editor of WWGOA, Woodworkers Guild of America. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, sign up for the newsletter if you haven't done so already. And we also have Kayleen McCabe, our guest today. She's here to answer some of your questions as well, so keep sending those to us. So our next question comes from Dave. He says, when turning a piece on a lathe and the headstock turns and the chuck stays still even for half a second, is the inside of the Morse taper ruined? If not, how do I true things up?
That's all, George, and I can't wait to listen to the answer.
So let me get a visual aid. Can you throw a question Kayleen's way, or
Well,
I'll be back in a second.
I will just do the awkward robot on the screen until George comes back with some sort of demonstration. Turning.
I'll try the later.
Wait to hear about more turning questions, and I look forward to your fans asking that. It is definitely.
All right, here we go.
Whoa, here we go. All right.
All right, and we're going to throw a little extra light on the subject here, if we see if that helps us. So Morse taper. So here's the question: is about this. This is a drive center or a spur center out of a lathe. It's, to be specific, it's a number 2 Morse taper. Number 2 is tells us the size of this. Number 1 would be smaller. Number 3 would be bigger. Number 2 is very common. So the question sounds like this: while something was being turned, this is socked into the headstock. Oops, sorry, Krista.
yeah, well, you know.
There we go. While this is being turned, the headstock continues, the spindle continues to spin, and this freezes up for a second. I would be surprised if this galled up or spurred up the inside of the Morse taper. And just because there's no sharp edges on this, so if it spins for a second, I don't think you're going to have a problem. If you do, what I would do is try poking something of smaller diameter, like say a 1/4-inch dowel, with the lathe not running. Just poke that into the taper in the end of the spindle and see if it travels in freely. And use that like a feeler gauge to just kind of test the inside there. If it does, I think they make Morse taper fixtures, and I'm not sure where to source that for you, but you need a device that's exactly this diameter and exactly this angle to put in there to clean that up. So like I said, 1, I'd be surprised if you had to do it. 2, if you do, it's going to take a little Googling. You might want to try a machine shop as opposed to a woodworking shop, so like a tool and die kind of a place, and see if they can help you with number 2 Morse taper reamer is what you'd be looking for.
All right, thank you, George. We have a question from John. He wants to know, what is Scant, S-C-A-N-T, timber? He's found multiple explanations online, but nothing is actually consistent.
Yes. I I don't know, ever heard that term, Kayleen? Scant timber?
You know, George, I feel like, nope, I'm not even going to, I'm going to totally pass this one off onto you. Sorry. Like, no, let's go, sir.
Okay, so nobody knows that answer.
I've never even heard the word. I've never heard that reference.
How about this? If any of our viewers know.
A lot of it around, so not sure.
If any of our viewers know, why don't you go ahead and type it in, and that way in the comments, so we can learn something today, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I can't help you.
All right. So we've got a question about drum sanders here from Lou Waller. Lou's been looking at a drum sander and likes the Supermax 1938. Could you do a comparison between this drum sander and other popular models? Thank you. And it looks like Lou is a very big fan of Kayleen's.
Well, cool. Lou, thanks for being a fan, but I am also going to have to toss this to George because I do not own a drum sander. This is really awkward. Sorry, gang. So while he answers,
we'll have to put it on your to-buy list, Kayleen, because once you have a drum sander and you can use it to sand your parts, it's crazy convenient.
Right, there's so many pieces. I need a prioritization of what tools I need to buy, but obviously now drum sander is gaining more priority. So George, if you wouldn't mind answering that question.
Well, it's to do it. You want to go look at the sander, Krista? Is that what you're?
No, it's up to you.
Okay, I don't think we need to. So Krista's pointing toward the Supermax sander that's here in my shop, but I think for this we don't need to do it. For this question, I can't really do a tool review on the air here because I don't have the other models in my shop. So what I would do for that is look for tool tests of surface sanders. And in a good tool test, what someone will have done is brought in a bunch of similar models, and they could be similar size, similar price point, all of the above. Take an objective look at them, and then let all of us know the good, the bad, and the ugly. Generally, they'll pick like an editor's choice, a best value. They'll have a couple different categories, but it's not a question I can answer because I haven't used a wide enough field of drum sanders to talk about it intelligently.
That was such a great answer. Are you running for like political office this season, by chance? Because that was like perfect. Like.
Well, this is not my first woodworking rodeo, so.
Love it. Awesome.
John asks, why does my blade not tilt when I push it to the right on a 1952 contractor table saw? The tilt handle is integrated with the height adjustment handle. He has lubricated it with glide coat. If the center bolt of the trunnions is too tight, it will not tilt. Anybody?
Well, I'm not inappropriate. I was born in 1980. It's
pretty cool that you're using a table saw from 1952, but I don't know. I mean, it's not something I've seen. It's going to be the answer is going to be idiosyncratic.
No, wait, there was a freeze. Sam.
What?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So sorry.
Typically on the front of a table saw, there's like a slot or a groove that indicates how far the handle will travel. So I'm assuming that because you expect it to go further, that handle looks like it should go from 90 degrees all the way up to 45. If something is stopping it, I think you're going to have to get inside the table saw, either from below or maybe from behind if it's contractor style and the motor is sticking out. Any place you can see in the saw, something is inhibiting the travel. And it's impossible for me to tell remotely what that would be. I don't know.
Okay. So Michael has asked a question. He says, when he dry assembles a project, everything is square and level. When he stains and then reassembles, it is not. Any tips on how he can fix this? He is brand new to woodworking.
George, I don't know if our answers will agree, but I assume that he might have a shift in lumber when he is staining it and adding moisture through the stain or finish back into his lumber, and therefore it's expanding or contracting or reacting to the stain and not fitting the same. Because I live in Denver where the climate is so dry, we don't have too much shift, but I could really see it being a reaction with the stain that is what is causing that the joints not to fit as well anymore.
Yeah, it is. It's weird, and I've pre-stained, pre-finished a lot of projects before assembly, and I've never run into that. But I like Kayleen's answer that. So what could it be about the finishing process that's making that happen? And really, the only thing I can think of is that it's somehow affecting the stability of the material and changing its characteristics, which is then throwing stuff out of alignment, out of square. So yeah, I'm not sure. It'd be another good spot for other viewers to weigh in if they've experienced this, and they can help out with some advice, because that's very weird that it affected that much.
George, I agree with it, but I have seen stuff shift and move, and if it's something that you're really concerned about your corners, I have even gone to the extent of pre-cutting all of my pieces an 1/8 inch heavy and then finishing them all, because there was obviously always times that you can't afford to buy pre-finished plywood or goods, and then I would go after they were all finished and cut them back so they wouldn't move. But I think that might be a Colorado thing where it's so dry here that really our lumber does shift and react with the lack of moisture coming from places. So I feel like that's a very open-ended question still, because you could be all over the country with humidity and moisture content.
Yeah. It's an interesting idea to pre-finish and then recut the joints.
All right, so we do have a viewer who thinks Scant wood might be referring to scantling, which is a type of timber that is square in cross sections. From the context, he's saying probably the person can let us know if this makes sense. So,
okay.
So anyway, that's there.
Answer number 1.
Right. So Jim wants to know, is there anything wrong with using sawdust and wood glue for a filler?
Yes.
Have you ever done that, Kayleen?
Yes, I think it's terrible. I think it's an awful idea unless you're doing it right. I genuinely want to discourage everyone from doing this, because I have come across so many homeowners who are taking sawdust. Awesome, great, right? But they don't realize that, I don't know how to even equate it. That sawdust that you're normally gathering up off your floor is really rough. And then when you add it with glue, that glue is not meant to be sanded away. And I am happy to post pictures in the future about a project I'm working on right now with maple treads, and then they took the sawdust and wanted to fill the holes. And no, it is a nightmare, because the sawdust is too chunky to accept it, and the glue is too hard to sand away. And so I think that it is a great filler if your sawdust is very, very fine and you are doing delicate work. But if it's not, there are other pieces out there. And oh gosh, in the staircase projects right now, George, I don't know. For me, it's one of those ones I want to poke my eyeballs out, because it is a massive problem. I'm looking into acetone to remove things. I'm going way beyond what I should, because the homeowner thought that sawdust and glue would make a great filler.
So this really hit a visceral response.
Oh, and he froze.
There's sawdust and there's sawdust. What I want to use is the sawdust that would come out of a sander, not the sawdust that would come out of a table saw or a planer joiner. That's too coarse. And I've had pretty good luck actually mixing sawdust with cyanoacrylate, or CA glue. You got to move fast, because CA glue dries very quickly. But to mix a wood dough out of that and pack it in, I've had pretty good success with that. But again, it's got to be as fine as flour when you use it.
And George, you're spot on, because when you can mix the right content with the right glue, it is the perfect mix. But I think a lot of DIYers think that the first sawdust that they will collect with whatever wood glue will work. But you are perfect in your recipe, sir. That's how it should be done.
Clear.
Okay, just a reminder for everybody who may be just joining us. I'm here live tonight with George Vondriska, the managing editor of Woodworkers Guild of America. Go out and follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. If you haven't signed up for the newsletter, go to WWGOA.com to do that. We also have Kayleen McCabe joining us tonight to answer your questions.
Oh, scenic Denver, Colorado.
Okay, from Denver, Colorado. And we've got lots of questions pouring in.
But I have to do my all-time favorite thing, Krista. I have to ask people where they're watching from, because I am my dork factor. I like knowing where people are watching from. So in the comments, please, just for me, Krista thinks I'm crazy when I ask for
That's
this.
true.
It's great.
Let us know where you're watching from, and we did start a couple minutes late, so we'll run a couple minutes past 8 o'clock Central Time at the back end of this.
Okay.
Oh, George, listen, I'm ready to nerd out with you for hours, so really, don't drink all that Gatorade, because I know. I even have woodworking questions for you, so game on. This is awesome. I'm so happy we were able to make this finally work.
Garner wants to know, what is your favorite method for laying out curves, like a curved apron on a table?
Curved apron. I've got just the answer. It's behind guitars here, so fill in for just a second.
All right. Well, I have a question that I'm not sure if we can answer it or not, but let's try. Mike has just finished a vanity project. He built it out of poplar and Baltic birch. The vanity is black. He started with black dye, then Old Master Spanish oak, and lastly a coat of Minx polycritic. He noticed lots of scratches and dings. What?
Minwax, you think?
I don't know. He noticed lots of scratches and dings. Can he make a mixture of stain and poly and use it to clean up the scratches? They are not very deep.
Okay. Well, I can answer this while George is killing time, but my answer might be different. So while George is killing time, let me answer it. Sometimes when you have a project made out of lighter lumber and you stain it dark, and you realize all the flaws, well, that is an opportunity for you to see all the flaws in it and stand it out and finish it. The reason that it's stained dark and uneven was because the finishing process wasn't completely finished. So I can see that after adding all those layers of finish that maybe you thought it would sort of work it out. But how about this? If you've already got the lacquer, take that piece and do soy gel or some sort of like bio-easy thing, strip it all down, take all that stuff out, and then sand it again. Because really you're dealing with maybe a quarter of an inch, maybe an eighth, when you're really seeing all those divots. So strip it, take the time to love it again with sandpaper, and then go through the process of finishing again. I think that you'll be happier with the process overall. Maybe George has other things, but you shouldn't finish until you love it, like completely sanded. And so, anyway, now that George is back, I'll throw it back to him. Here, there you go, George.
Yeah, I think you're okay. I don't know that you can cover over. If you've got dings, I'm with Kayleen. You might have to, I don't know about stripping the whole thing, but you might have to at least spot sand where the problems are. The problem with spot sanding, recoloring, and trying to build that up is it's very difficult to match the surrounding area if you leave the other finish in place. So you might have to do some significant sanding to make the props go completely away before you go back to recoloring.
Great, and I know you're setting up for your curves. However, somebody has a pretty definitive answer on scant wood.
Let's hear it.
It is a common term for poor grade timber members. It is non-structural, usually very knotty with lots of defects. It is sold in our Australian hardware stores as a non-structural timber.
Huh. So is it, so I'm going to take this to, I'm going to say the viewers from Australia, but I know you don't know. So I wonder if it's a term that's more prevalent outside of the United States, which would then, I wonder if our first question asker was from the US or someplace else. So that's cool. Well, thanks for the answer. To hit there, so the question was laying out curves on something like a furniture apron. Go ahead.
I just was wondering if you had an article or video about this.
You're saying we do. So with that form of leading question, I'm going to say yes.
We should into
yes, we do. WWGOA. So let's talk about a couple different approaches. While Kayleen was talking, I was looking for the right stick, and I found something, but it's not quite what I want. This is a flexible curve, available on Amazon. It's rubber on the outside. There's a piece of steel on the inside. So when I form it, it holds that form. So one way to do this is you can pull the curve that you want into this and form it, and then trace that onto your work. These are available in different lengths. There's some limitation as far as how tight, how small a radius will go, but they're pretty good to have. This is similar but different. So this one has actually got, Krista's doing a good job zooming here. There are multiple splines to this.
Where do you buy that at, George?
What?
She wants to know where you found that, George.
In the drawer over here.
No, that's awesome. That's a great piece. Oh my gosh, I could see. All right, thanks for highlighting it, because that.
I'm trying to get it here for you. So it's on Amazon. Did I get the brand name in the right place?
Straighten when not in use.
You should make it blurry so people have to buy it off your website. Just say.
Is it?
You can't see it.
Okay. We'll source it in the questions here, but it's available on Amazon as well. It's called the adjustable spline. So each of these layers in here is splined to the other layer. So then it's like the other one. When I form it, it holds that form. It holds that shape. So it's another pretty cool adjustable curve. And then the thing I was looking for was just, I thought I had a fairing stick, and I don't, but a fairing stick would just be a really thin piece of wood that we can bow. And I think this is what Krista's talking about as being on the WWGOA site. And what one would do so that you could do this when you're by yourself is treat it like a bow and arrow, and put a string across here. And by tensioning the string, you can increase or decrease the curve. And then you can lay that on your work and trace it. It needs to be consistent thickness and fairly straight grain, so that when you bend it, we don't want what this one's doing. It's real thin here and thicker here, right? So when I do this, I'm not getting a fair curve. I'm not getting a uniform bend because it's thinner here. So make it consistent thickness throughout. Straight grain wood like maple, cherry, or walnut would be a great choice. And as long as you need for the curve that you're making.
All right.
A geometry nerds unite. Woo, square state. Yeah.
Gary would like to know, is there a single surface melamine available? It would lend itself to a laminate for solid tabletops.
Ooh.
Yeah, so melamine one face, right, Kayleen? That's probably what he's looking for.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
And so here's the thing, that eventually in your woodworking, what you need to do is expand beyond home centers and lumber yards and that kind of stuff, and look in your area for hardwood suppliers, sheet goods supplier, cabinet suppliers.
Softwood, lumber too. Yep.
You'll be amazed. Not only is melamine available, melamine one face instead of two, but you can also get it a bazillion different colors. You can get it with wood grain on it. There's a whole assortment out there. And I'm going to actually backtrack and say it might be, I'm not sure you can get melamine one face, because I think it would have a tendency to cause the sheet to bow. If you want to laminate a product, there's nothing wrong with laminating plastic laminate on a melamine face, but you have to scuff it first. You have to really abrade it with about an 80 grit abrasive. Then you can use contact adhesive and plastic laminate over that. We built, when I was a production manager of a commercial cabinet shop, we built bazillions of countertops that way. And what's nice is on the underside, when you look inside the cabinet, you've got that melamine face. And of course on the top, you've got your plastic laminate. So it is fine to P-lam over the top if you sand to scuff that surface.
Okay, our next question, someone wants to know, what is the best way to build a tabletop where the contraction and expansion do not make it split apart?
Gosh, I mean, while George's taking a drink, I think it would have to depend on the size of the countertop. I think if you wanted to have something that would resist that sort of flex from all directions at some point, you would make the entire piece out of end grain, but you are limited at some sizes for that. So really looking at what grain is your direction going for the distance that you're trying to cover. If this is like a 2 foot by 2 foot top, gosh, we can have a bunch of fun. You don't really need anything structural. If it's a 5 foot by 80 foot, then we should have a hot chat about structural integrity. And also, are you part of the Game of Thrones? Yeah.
What?
She asked if this person was part of the Game of Thrones.
I don't. I kind of watch Game of Thrones, but I don't get the reference. I'm a little.
I don't watch it either, but I'm trying to make us hip.
Oh, so here's the thing. The big thing in a glue up, and Kayleen is right. You got to be concerned about the overall size because the larger it is, the more it will expand and contract. But you should be able to glue up any top you want without splits if you start with wood that's stable. So you really, if it's kiln dried, it should be at a 6 to 8% moisture content before you start to work with it. If you live in an area like here where I live, and I think Kayleen's in the same boat, in the wintertime outside it's 20 below, in my shop it's 60 above. That material needs to come in here and acclimate to my building for probably 2 or 3 days before I start to work with it. If you try to rush it, you're moving things too fast, and it's probably going to split on you. And then the other thing, people just got to remember that if you do a solid wood top and the grain is going this way, you cannot rigidly cross fasten a piece below it because that will cause it to split. When that top tries to contract, as it dries, as it gets cooler, it's going to change seasonally no matter what you do. As it tries to change, that's what's going to make it split. So you have to allow, whatever top you build, you've got to allow it to float independently of the base. And like Kayleen said, if you get to 5 feet by 80 feet, you're going to have a lot of expansion and contraction. The bigger the top, the more it moves. So allow it to float, and that will prevent splitting as well.
Thank you. All right, so we have a viewer asking us, what is the best finish for a wooden cup or mug? So I'm assuming they're going to be putting liquids in it. They're probably going to want to wash it.
Yeah, George, that's a great question that I would love to hear your answer on, because recently I have done a bunch of finishes in the past, from tung oil to vegetable oil. I did walnut oil for a hot minute, but then I realized that I myself was allergic to walnut. So do you have a better finish for food-related things? It's I don't know. I've struggled with that, so I will definitely let you take that answer. I'm
gonna look and see. You feed Kayleen another question. I'm gonna see if I've got a.
All right, done. I'm eating other questions right now, and you can awkwardly walk away from the set. All right. Here are other questions. I am very impressed that George has a Teddy Ruxpin on his tool bench. I don't know all of the sounds that his guitars play. I don't know how to be fed other questions, but I can definitely just entertain myself with things.
Well, Kayleen, we have a viewer who wants to know how fine is fine enough for sanding projects that will receive clear finish?
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? I think that is also something that I am not an expert in answering, but I will answer with what I have experienced. So in my opportunity in sanding and finishing things, 120 to 220 is really, really nice to accept a stain in lumber that has sort of a medium, porous density. I have also started to play with lumber and sanding things up to 24,000, which is ridiculous. You shouldn't really ever play with lumber above 220. But I have polished it now and really played with it. Now, I've realized that as I've polished, it does not accept stain or oil or anything else. It actually becomes waterproof on its own. And so if you're looking to change the color of your lumber or really have oil soak into it, you have to do it to a lesser level. I don't know. I just like to geek out with stuff, but I don't know. I prefer somewhere around 220, and I really like beeswax with a little bit of walnut oil. Is sort of my ideal stain. If people are going to eat off of it, if not, then I don't know. Could be a bunch of different things.
Okay, and I would agree. Somewhere a top end somewhere around 180, 220, and it's very possible, like Kayleen said, to over sand.
Yes.
You get to a point where the wood is so burnished it won't accept or it doesn't want to accept a stain in there for a finish. So it's, for me, with my usual suspects are oak, red oak, maple, and cherry, and I sand those to 180 before I put a finish on. Regarding the vessels that you're going to possibly drink out of, what I was looking for in my finishing cabinet was specifically bowl turners finish. So there are food-safe finishes. However, a food-safe finish that for a bowl that you're going to put apples in is different from something that we're going to actually pour a liquid into. For instance, I know people turn wine goblets. I'll use a bowl turner's finish, I'll use mineral oil, I'll use almost any finish in something that I know food is going to just sit in. And over time, as the organic compounds flash off, you're going to be fine. The reason I was looking for the can was to see if I could read the directions and see if bowl turner's finish was specifically okay for a vessel you're going to pour wine or liquid or some other wine water or some other liquid into. And I couldn't find it in my cabinet, or I don't have it. So I would explore specifically those bowl turner finishes, but read the directions and see if they approve that kind of application for the finish.
Great, thank you. Jim says he's got a large bed lathe. He's been doing a lot of bowl turning and is finding that the bed is getting in his way with some of his larger turnings. The lathe has a 90-degree turn available, which he has not used. Do you have any positive or negative experiences with using the 90-degree turn capability? Any guidance is greatly appreciated.
It's it does a great job of increasing capacity. Let's see, Chris, if we can, let's add a little life to this thing, and I'm going to ask you to
Thank God.
Do a move here. Yeah, I know, we normally move so much more than this on these things. Let me move the cord out this way.
You're amazing, Krista. This is mind-blowing.
And then
I want to be in your shop. Sorry to be the only viewer out here who's like, total jealousy, but I have the voice, so sorry. Your shop is amazing, sir.
There you go. So if you can get down on the headstock here, Krista. There you go. So the question is about a lathe like this, and some lathes like this one. I'm going to take that back. This one doesn't do it. And I'll tell you why it doesn't do it. They have the ability to turn the head 90 degrees. So then the chuck that's on here right now to hold a bowl is out here. So then you can see the effect that would have on increasing what's called the swing, the diameter capacity of the lathe. So one thing that can happen is that if the lathe isn't pretty robust, imagine what's happening here with weight. As we bring that bowl out here, suddenly we've got a lot of weight outboard here, not over the bed of the machine, and it can make the lathe a little bit unstable. Depending on your machine, if it's not equipped for a tool rest out here, you might need a freestanding tool rest so that you can do that turning. So I would say you can do this, and I would experiment with it and try it, but don't think that because I can turn this outboard, I can therefore turn I don't know what, a 48-inch radius bowl because it's 48 inches to the floor. There's a realistic limitation here of what the lathe will take. Now the reason this one doesn't spin outboard is because it slides to the end. So this machine solves this problem by staying centered over the bed, but I can move it all the way down, and then I'm cantilevered past the end of the cast iron bed, and that gives me that huge capacity to turn.
You are such a... Oh, come on, George, come on. Listen, can we spend another, hour and a half with you in the lathe? Because that thing is off the charts. My gosh.
That is a very cool lathe. It's
here's the thing. I know we started late. I am in no rush. And I have no things. So, bravo to that.
I'll end up being the party pooper because I have I'm teaching all weekend in Iowa, and I have to leave for that tomorrow. I have to do a little tool packing before
I'm very hissy fit for all of your fans being like, come on, George, there's so many other things we have to go see. Come on, this wasn't. Wait, we did not this is not enough time. Is this how all of your viewers feel with doing a chat?
Well, we always get, as Krista points out, we get so many more questions than we can answer, but I mean, and I appreciate your enthusiasm, but we would, if we went another hour, then there would be another hour's worth of questions after that. So that's why we do this once a month, to try to just keep coming back and answering more and more questions.
And I think it's important to remind viewers that you do go through and answer their questions as best you can if we didn't get to it at the live after the show.
Yeah, between now and tomorrow sometime.
Right.
Awesome. Good. Because, George, quite frankly, I am looking forward to, I'm going to be out your way in a few weeks, but I'm very, very sad that we could not hang out longer. And we did not answer enough questions at all. I'm ready to get my full-out woodworking geek on. This didn't even satiate any of it.
Well, we're not done yet. We got 10 minutes to go. So
okay, all right. Okay.
Do we have a report of where viewers are watching from?
I don't know. I'm scrolling through the question.
Okay.
Okay. So
yeah, but that's where they put them, is in the questions.
Yep. So, after using an oil-based stain, can one finish with a water-based polyurethane? Thank you.
There has to be a lot of drying time, yes. So, I'm currently putting a water-based top coat over, I use a base coat of shellac, and shellac is denatured alcohol as the solvent. If you want to grab George's knife block, Krista, that's a great example of it. So the key to that is that whether it's a solvent-based stain, it's shellac, whatever that base coat is, under the water base, there has to be sufficient time for the first coat to flash. Otherwise, what will happen is it'll affect the top coat. So my son George made this for his high school shop class. This has got a single base coat of de-wax shellac, Zinsser seal coat, and then one coat of a water-based lacquer over the top of it. The seal coat was allowed to dry 24 hours, and then he sprayed the top coat of water-based lacquer over the top. So yes, you can do it, but you got to have ample drying time.
Yeah, I'm seeing like so much craftsmanship and beauty behind the piece that you just set down. I want to give a shout out to all of our folks. Hey, Australia, I have family in New Zealand. It's not really close, but anyway. Hey, can you please explain what the piece is that your son created behind you? Like the craftsmanship as far as joinery, or is that too like? Because I see that we have a lot of viewers coming in from different places, and I don't want to knock that, but.
Well, yeah, we could. I mean, I'll give Georgia credit where credit is due here. So it's knife block was a required class or required project for a shop class. So it's walnut and maple are the two combinations, and then the way that he put this together was he cut the knife slots into each board that makes up the sandwich. That work was done on the router table. It's a 2-inch slot, a 1-inch slot, a 3/4-inch slot, and then 1-inch kerfs at the bottom. So we did these on the router table. He did these are just kerfs cut on the table saw, glued together into a big sandwich. The angle cut was done, it was a 2-step operation. He started it by cutting as much as he could on a miter saw, and then he finished it with a band saw, and then removed there was a tiny bit of excess left from the band saw. I don't know, that's it. I think it's due tomorrow, so a good thing he's got it done.
Hooray! Congratulations to your son to getting the fact of how awesome woodworking is. Sorry, I didn't, I don't know. I just want to give high five to the folks out there who are in real life doing what we love, George. I mean, gosh, your kids are onto it. It's impressive and powerful.
All right. Well, thanks.
Okay, so it is 8:01 Central. I know we're going to go a little bit longer. Do you want to do 1, 2 more questions? What do you want to do?
Let's do between 2 and 5, depending on how long it takes to respond.
Okay, great. So someone wants to know, what do you think of the Festool Domino? Are there any alternatives out there, or is the Festool Domino worth its money?
I love the Festool Domino. I may never cut a traditional mortise and tenon again. It's very fast. It's very easy to use. It's got as much strength, I believe, as a traditional mortise and tenon joint does. As far as competitors go, I don't think anybody else is making like that. Big difference between something like a domino and a biscuit joiner is the amount of penetration the domino has into the mating piece is, again, much more like what a mortise and tenon would do. Domino might be 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches long, so we have a lot of reach into each of the 2 mating pieces, where with biscuits, even a large number 20 biscuit, you're only getting about 3/8 of an inch of penetration into each piece. So yeah, I love the domino. I use it all the time.
Thank you, George. We actually have viewers wanting to know if you're going to keep making woodworker journals videos. So I think that means...
So Woodworkers Guild of America content is also labeled and goes out to Woodworkers Journal subscribers. And I think, as far as I know, stuff that we shot a couple weeks ago is being labeled and prepared for Woodworkers Journal as we speak. So I'm pretty sure, yes.
Yes. And it's just a reminder to you guys, if you're not already subscribing to the newsletter, to go out to WWGOA.com and sign up. Lots of good information there. You can see when videos are coming out. I think there's free links, at least maybe, to free videos and free content. So. Hey,
so Kayleen, why don't you? I know you're an avid supporter of youth getting involved in the trades in general, and people ask me all the time, what can we do to encourage youth in this direction? So why don't you give us your best 2 minutes here on what we as people who are doing woodworking can do to encourage young people to come in and do this.
All right, a whole 2 minutes, George, gosh, because normally I'm given just an elevator speech, so I will take up less than that. 1, thank you for the platform. Listen, everybody who is tuned into this, please realize that you have the opportunity to help us continue the craft to be extended beyond where we're at now. I am doing my part in traveling to every school that I can to convince school-age students to consider trades. But really, where I'm going to be lacking is in craftsmen who are willing to donate their time to pass this craft on. So please, please, if you are a part of this podcast or listening to it, consider to give your time to donate a moment to pass your craft on to, maybe it's someone, your granddaughter, grandson, or maybe it's someone in your school-age area who you can actually say, this is how you cut dovetails and appreciation for our craft. But please, at the bare minimum, pass this craft on, because, oh my gosh, I love what I do more than anything. I am so proud to be a woodworker, a craftsman. This is what actually fuels my soul and what makes me get up every day, is the fact that I get to work with lumber and actually work and create structures that maybe people live in or people use for storage or whatever. I can go on forever. So that is my long-winded sort of inspirational speech. I cannot thank enough George to give me this opportunity to hang out, because I know the people who are tuning into this, we are real craftsmen. You get it. There's like sawdust in our bloods, like nobody's business. We all get it. You fall asleep at night and you dream about furniture, and I'm the same way. And so I am going to spread that passion to all of the next generation that I can, and tell them that this is the best thing ever, and there's great opportunities for success in woodworking, and opportunities like George and the Woodworking Guild of America will only help with that. So thank you, George, so much for this. It was a wonderful time to finally get to be able to hang out and share times. And really, sir, gosh, I could nerd out with you for hours on end. And in fact, I will be in Milwaukee very, very soon, so we should hang out.
All right, we'll talk about that offline. And Christy, you have a good, what time are we at here? Yeah, about wrap up. You got a good closing question for us?
Sure, and before I do that, I'm just gonna, I know how much you love it. Here's a list of where people are watching from.
Okay, list of where people are watching from.
Yep.
Like Karnak, the grid. What is north of the United States?
Canada.
Is that on the list?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Minnesota, California, Texas, Kentucky, Oklahoma, Georgia, Mexico, New Mexico, Australia, Pennsylvania, Indiana, and Arkansas, which I didn't say already, Arkansas. And I'm sure there's other people out there watching too. Maybe they just haven't typed it in, because I think we have normally a lot of diversity. Global. Yep.
Very good.
All right.
So thanks for that. I love that.
Yep, I know. So our last question is this: where do you get your ideas for the next big thing?
That's for George. It's
wow.
his game.
I talk to a lot of people. I mean, so here's with the videos. What happens is I like that I continue to teach. Like, you know, as I said, I'm leaving tomorrow for 3 days of teaching in Iowa. So I like that I still do that, because when I go out and talk to woodworkers, if the next big thing is what video are we going to do next month, when I'm talking to woodworkers and there's this prevalence of sentiment, like, I wish I knew more about resawing on the bandsaw, and if I hear that a bunch of times, then we're going to cover that with a video or an article or both. So that interaction with woodworkers for me is really important, to make sure that I'm not just talking about what I like, but I'm talking about what people want to learn more about. And then in my woodworking and like what I do that I like to do, I don't disagree with Kayleen that sometimes I'm just like, I really like turning bowls. So if I'm going to daydream about woodworking, it's probably, is there some cool wood I could turn on the lathe? Is there some technique I could try that's a little bit different? Something like that. And then given the time, which is the hard part, I'm going to try it. So I guess that in that part, I'm just with. Do you have a inspiration source that you can share with us, and you don't have to kill us because you told us?
You blocked out, but super short is my parents, and it's also gentlemen like you, and a gentleman like Steve Bass, Steve Barber, Drew Farah, Tom from Craig. There are a whole host of people who really make my passion what it is as far as backing, because quite frankly, we're on to a great mission and we're saying awesome things. So George, really, I can't wait to see you again in person, and thanks for hanging out on a live chat, and hooray to everyone who tuned in, and you should tune back because I know you have more questions, so hooray!
All right, well, thanks, Kayleen. That was a wonderful sign off on your part, and we are wrapping up. Like we said, we started a little late, so we ran a little late. What's your message, Christy? You look like you're...
Yep, just a reminder that we're trying to make this a regular thing.
Yeah, so we're looking at doing this monthly. So we don't have a date at this point for the June event, but when we do, it will be on Facebook, it'll be on WWGOA.com, there'll be all sorts of sources for it. This was our first experience with a guest, so I'm glad this went smooth. It took us 3 tries to get Kayleen here because we had some technical issues on our side. So glad this worked out. So thanks for tuning in from wherever you are, and we'll see you next month. Thanks, Krista.